Paris, in the winter of 1978, is beautiful yet unforgiving. Frost clings to the windows, creating a delicate lacework that belies the darker reality lurking beneath the city's surface. In a small, unremarkable bathroom, the morning ritual unfolds. A man stands before the mirror, his breath fogging the glass as he brushes his teeth. The rhythm is calming, a moment of mundane normality, the kind of scene we all recognize. But take a closer look, and you'll see that this isn't just toothpaste. In this seemingly innocuous scene lies a lethal truth. It's a delivery system, a weapon, concealed beneath the veil of dental hygiene. This moment, usually so benign, transforms into a harbinger of death. The ordinary act of caring for one's teeth becomes a death sentence in an assassination plot woven by Mossad against the PFLP leader. This is the story of how assassination evolved from the chaos of car bombs and shootouts to a calculated art form where chemistry replaces bullets and patience outmatches bravado. Prepare to follow the intricate steps of a manhunt that transcended borders, fractured alliances, and challenged the very essence of plausible deniability. To grasp the significance of this kill, we must first delve into the mind of the target, the fear he instilled, and the unyielding power dynamics of a Cold War that valued an insidious creativity over brute force. This is a tale that reveals how even a simple smile can mask a deeply entrenched conflict. Let's unmask it together. Born in 1927 in the historic city of Safed, Wadi Haddad's early life unfolded in the embrace of an Orthodox Christian family. From these roots, he bore witness to the profound upheaval of the 1948 Nakba, a pivotal moment that transformed countless lives, including his own. As he and his family sought refuge in Lebanon, this exile planted the seeds of his revolutionary spirit. At the American University of Beirut, Haddad immersed himself in medicine, aspiring to heal others. But it was here he crossed paths with George Habash, a fateful encounter that would ignite a political awakening. Together, they envisioned a radical movement that merged Arab nationalism with a revolutionary Marxist ideology, rejecting the established order. Haddad's ambition led him to abandon the sterile confines of a clinic for the clandestine world of covert operations. His belief was that diplomacy was merely theatre. True change required bold, often violent actions to be recognized. As the architect behind the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine's External Operations Wing, he orchestrated high-profile hijackings and striking acts of resistance. Each operation was a calculated method to capture international attention and thrust the Palestinian cause into the global spotlight. To those who looked up to him as a strategist, he was a hero of resistance. To Israel, he was a revered enemy, a roaming nerve center igniting fear and urgency in its wake. Haddad connected radical factions with radical regimes and orchestrated the flow of resources through black market channels. His strategy was clear: remove this connective hub, and the carefully woven web of support would begin to unravel. This was not just war, it was an intricate game of power, one where he believed each move could tip the scales of history. The aftermath of the 1967 Six-Day War transformed the Middle East into a high-stakes chessboard. In this intricate game, the Palestinian Liberation Organization sought to bolster its political legitimacy, while factions like the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine escalated their tactics, bringing conflict to the forefront. Among the masterminds of this strategy was George Haddad, who executed his operations with striking scale and simultaneity. His tactics reached a fever pitch at Dawson's Field in 1970, where the Jordanian desert morphed into an arena for global attention, with multiple hijacked jets converging in a bizarre twist of fate. This audacious act not only showcased Haddad's theatrical ambition, but also attracted a myriad of allies. The support flowed in from Eastern Bloc intelligence services to the Japanese Red Army, revealing a complex web of safe houses, forged documents, and training channels connecting distant corners of the globe. Each high-impact event Haddad orchestrated only served to amplify his myth and amplify Israel's sense of urgency. With every spectacular act, he drew in political oxygen, making his presence felt on an international scale. For Israeli decision-makers, the challenge of tracking down such a nimble target was daunting. Traditional approaches to manhunting proved risk-laden and uncertain. Haddad's ability to travel under a series of aliases, shift safe houses frequently, and trust only a select network of vetted intermediaries meant that speed alone wouldn't cut it. No, to get close to Haddad, they needed something far more elusive: proximity. The aftermath of the Entebbe operation resonated deeply within Israel, both as a humbling of Haddad's networks and as a rallying call for the nation. However, the real challenge emerged. As long as Haddad was alive, there was always a risk of more attacks, like an insistent shadow looming over Israel. The sense of urgency spurred intense cabinet-level discussions. Each option was weighed and measured. Car bombs screamed their own attribution, while snipers could become martyrs in a heartbeat. Kidnapping seemed to portend disaster. In the midst of these deliberations surfaced an unusual proposal from the country's most discreet intelligence circles. The strategy? To eliminate the threat stealthily, to kill without a spectacle. The method would simulate an illness that took time to unfold, allowing nature to do the hard work of unraveling the truth. Once greenlit quietly, the operation made its way to specialists, individuals trained in the delicate art of patience. This was not about brute force, it was about intimacy, gaining access to the most personal moments in a life. Imagine the uncanny reach into the everyday, a bathroom perhaps, or a cabinet. It's those fleeting moments, the mundane rituals of a man's life, that became the target. A simple act, unnoticed by most, could wield the power to change the course of history. This was the essence of the mission: to strike down a threat while keeping the world oblivious, all while ensuring that the voice of time echoed the real story. In the shadowy world of espionage, legends are forged with the answer to one of the most perplexing questions. How do you gain the trust of a paranoid individual who sees betrayal at every turn? At the heart of one particularly intricate operation was an asset known in whispers as Agent Sadness. He didn't storm in with loud demands or forceful tactics. Rather, he adopted an invisible approach that emphasized blending in seamlessly. Agent Sadness understood that to build trust, he needed to offer something worthwhile. He became a supplier, a facilitator, a liaison, anything but an obvious threat. The exact formula of his success remains closely guarded, but the outcome was unmistakable. Through routine, seemingly harmless interactions, he cultivated a familiarity that felt entirely organic. He meticulously mapped out the target's daily rhythms, identified their vulnerabilities, and learned the small details of their life: the windows of travel, the routine purchases, even the frequency of replacing household items. The objective wasn't to initiate a dramatic exchange, but instead to manufacture an ordinary moment so mundane that it would escape the scrutiny of even the most vigilant security protocols. In an apartment that housed secrets and suspicions, the battlefield was less about documents or hidden microphones and more about the simple act of establishing rapport. Trust became his weapon of choice, emotion his shield. In this delicate dance, every trivial interaction was a calculated move, small yet powerful enough to erode the walls built by paranoia. This wasn't just espionage, it was an exercise in human connection, where every smile and nod helped to inch closer to a mission's true goal. In the sterile confines of the lab in Ness Ziona, researchers became modern-day alchemists, venturing into the murky waters of biology and toxicology. Their mission was deceptively straightforward, yet chilling: develop a compound that could subtly infiltrate the everyday lives of unsuspecting victims. The vision was clear: create a poison that would ride the routine, slipping unnoticed into the bloodstream, and mimic the slow onset of a natural disease. The genius lay not just in the chemistry, but in the sheer ordinariness of the execution. Picture this: the simple act of brushing your teeth, a seemingly harmless ritual performed by millions daily. Researchers found that toothpaste presented the perfect vehicle, something you use without a second thought, something that could mask the insidiousness of the compound within it. It had to be effective yet unremarkable enough to avoid any alarm bells, neither too pungent nor irritating. Taking a fractional dosage approach, each application could build a cumulative effect over time, akin to a slow drip into a well. This careful dance with biology meant that packaging needed to withstand scrutiny, temperature changes, and feel just like any regular tube of toothpaste. The plan demanded a cruel reliability that could flourish in the mundane routine of life. There was no need for Hollywood dramatics. The real horror lay in the cold, calculated exchange of a toothpaste tube that, in its ordinary facade, masked a deadly secret. This was science at its most chillingly effective, making death feel normal, all while the world continued on, blissfully unaware. The day was carefully chosen, quiet, predictable, just the kind of day when no one would question a familiar face slipping through the seemingly mundane motions of life. The agent stepped inside, heart racing just beneath the calm facade. With meticulous precision, he executed a simple yet surreal act, one identical tube out and another identical tube in. It was a masterclass in subtlety. Every detail mattered. A cap scuffed exactly like the original. The crease on the box mirrored so perfectly, it seemed as if it had merely shifted positions. No fumbling, no hesitation, just a smooth transition as he executed what felt like a scene from a play. A singular audience member loomed large in his mind, the weight of their attention making even the simplest tasks monumental. As the bathroom cabinet clicked shut, that familiar sound skimmed over his senses, almost like a soft exhale of release. Time, however, was the true master of this operation. It couldn't be bragged about or celebrated. It required careful management. After the switch, he seamlessly navigated his day, appearing at ordinary intervals, ensuring he wasn't too far or too close. There were no grand gestures or abrupt goodbyes, just the quiet confidence of someone who understood the delicate dance between normality and the unseen. Keeping suspicion at bay was vital. The invisible plot was advancing in the background, just like an undercurrent that, when carefully nurtured, could pull the unsuspecting into deeper waters. In January 1978, a quiet transformation begins in Baghdad. The brush moves, a mundane act that belies the storm brewing beneath the surface. As foam gathers in the aftermath of daily routines, there's a sinister undertone. Nothing tastes wrong, yet something is profoundly off. Over days and weeks, the first signals echo in the recesses of the body. An unshakable abdominal pain creeps in, and no amount of sleep seems to banish the relentless fatigue. As time progresses, the plight sharpens. Weight begins to slide off like the last leaves of autumn, and hair thins as if life itself is being stripped away. Doctors are consulted, tests are run, hepatitis, cancers, even rare infections are considered, yet results remain a kaleidoscope of conflicting outcomes. Treatments come and go like ill-fated allies, each failure delaying the inevitable. Meanwhile, whispers circulate within the inner circles of intelligence. Rumors dance dangerously with denial as the target's trusted network tightens, restricting movements and shifting clinics. But by now, the enemy has already breached the fortress of the body. It's a new battlefield where the very essence of life is compromised. Each misdiagnosis grants the toxin more time, like a thief in the night. New medications swirl in a fog of confusion, obscuring the path to truth. What may have seemed like patience on the operator's side morphs into a haunting sense of inevitability on the target's side. Once a master of orchestrating complex operations, the man who once synchronized the chaotic ballet of jetliners can no longer outmaneuver the relentless advance of unseen molecules. In this precarious game of survival, the stakes are higher than ever, and the outcome hangs in a delicate balance, urging us to reflect on the fragility of existence and the quiet battles waged within our own bodies. East Berlin became a silent battleground, where whispers carried through the dimly lit corridors of clandestine hospitals. Under the cover of darkness, allies from the Eastern Bloc arranged a discreet transfer for the patient, the brain behind the PFLP's external operations, shrouded in an alias, a cipher to avoid prying eyes. This city, a crucial juggernaut of historical tension, became the last station for a man rapidly losing the fight. For 10 grueling days, he endured a barrage of tests conducted by top physicians, each day a somber reminder of his precarious state. Internal damage was severe, organs faltered, bleeding surged uncontrollably, and spasms shattered any remaining hope of regaining control. The stark truth gnawed away at the edges of their optimism. This was not the rescue they had imagined. On March 28, 1978, the last flicker of life in the operative's eyes faded. The medical file painted a grim picture of organ failure, a testament to the fierce struggle waged within that frail body. Outside, the streets buzzed with an undercurrent of mourning and rage, each soul sensing the gravity of the loss. Suspicion cloaked the atmosphere as security services exchanged meticulous cables draped in an embroidered caution that spoke volumes. No official statement emerged, and for good reason. Everyone who needed to comprehend this tragedy already did. As shadows gathered over a city forever marked by division, lives were irrevocably altered, leaving lingering questions in their wake. Shockwaves ripple through communities, and what begins as a somber funeral can easily morph into a powerful rallying cry. Posters stack up on walls, plastered with accusations that often lack solid proof but resonate with the expectations of the moment. Meanwhile, in Israel, the reaction is strikingly different. A deliberately orchestrated silence. There's a strategic ambiguity to this quiet that turns rumors into tools of deterrence, steering clear of messy courtroom battles while still conveying an unmistakable message. In Europe, discussions slow to a crawl, paperwork gets buried, and leaders choose their words carefully, as if aware that the loudest signals aren't spoken at all. They're wrapped in the texture of daily life. It's a psychological warfare where even the most mundane aspects of your morning routine can become a weapon. Take a moment to think about it. Leaders, surrounded by layers of security, now have fresh anxieties to grapple with. Suddenly, objects as innocuous as toothpaste tubes, doorknobs, and teacups become symbols of potential threat. For those on the ground, the operators, it's a stark lesson. If you can plant seeds of doubt into everyday habits, you push your opponent from a position of strength into the realm of self-surveillance. Each familiar object transforms into a blinking reminder of risk, fostering an environment where constant vigilance reigns. As the investigation deepens, conflicting accounts begin to surface, but rather than calling these contradictions, it's more accurate to view them as the fog that often accompanies black operations. One source points to luxury chocolates as the clever delivery vehicle, tantalizingly disguised for maximum effect. Another throws in a twist, detailing a toothpaste swap executed with granular tradecraft, meticulous, efficient, and decidedly unglamorous. This blur of details isn't just a result of misinformation, it's a strategic necessity for those involved. With sources fiercely protecting themselves, the specifics become hazy by design. Yet among these shifting narratives, one thread remains steadfast: the architecture behind the operation. Think of it as deep penetration into enemy territory, a slow-acting toxin that would be misattributed, ensuring plausible deniability for those in power who crave results without the chaos of open spectacle. The exact prop used in the operation matters little. What holds weight is the doctrine it symbolizes. Here, we see a reliance on creative vectors and what could only be described as metabolic patience. Each move is calculated, each detail strained for impact. Denial becomes not just a reaction, but a core policy. In this scenario, the weapon is elegantly ordinary, just another everyday object, while the outcome is nothing short of extraordinary. This is precisely what makes it effective. In the shadows, the assassin doesn't rely on flashy signatures or overt displays of power. Instead, he follows a routine, blending seamlessly into the background, ever so unassuming. It's this mundane familiarity that allows the extraordinary to unfold right under our noses, reminding us that the darkest stories often come wrapped in the most familiar packages. In today's world, the doctrine of targeted killing raises profound questions that blur the lines between security and morality. Supporters passionately argue that taking out key figures behind mass casualty plots is a necessary measure to protect innocent lives in the future. It's a preventive strike, they say, that ensures fewer tragedies at home and abroad. However, critics strongly oppose this view, labeling such actions as extrajudicial executions that erode the very principles of rule of law we strive to uphold. They highlight the dangers these tactics pose, not just in terms of legality, but also in how they can create a backlash, igniting further conflicts and increasing hostility. Amid this heated debate, the Haddad case stands out. It underscored a pivotal shift in how military and intelligence operations can be conducted. Instead of relying solely on swift, overwhelming force, Haddad's scenario introduced a more contemplative approach, one that advocates patience over pyrotechnics. We saw how this method provided an opportunity to reshape conflict zones in quieter, less obvious ways. With that, a valuable lesson emerged for both state actors and non-state movements alike. The necessity to decentralize operations and reduce reliance on singular leaders became apparent. This shift didn't just change how battles were fought, it redefined the entire landscape of conflict, pushing it towards stealthy approaches and distributed targets, where the battlefield now quietly adjusts in two very different directions. This changing paradigm reminds us that modern warfare has transformed. The stakes feel higher, and the ethical dilemmas more complex than ever. The operational loss of the PFLP's external arm shook their structure to its core. With the main strategist gone, planned operations didn't just stall, they entered a kind of limbo. Familiar networks that once thrived on tight coordination began to sag under the weight of uncertainty. Although this void didn't entirely derail their campaign, it did dramatically alter its rhythm and complexity. For Israel, this moment validated a chilling model of targeting that would reverberate through the decades. Scientists, logisticians, and militant commanders became prime targets, a strategy that became increasingly sophisticated yet unsettlingly mundane. What's striking is how adversaries and even allies interpreted this, turning everyday life into a battlefield. The mundane trappings of normalcy, like doors, drinks, grooming kits, and parcels, were repurposed as tactical instruments, transforming routine items into tools of war. This shift has led to a disturbing normalization of tactics that would once have incited outrage. Now, individuals pass by the everyday reminders of this entrenched conflict with little more than a shrug, illustrating that this normalization may just be the most significant collateral effect of all. It's a testament to how the lines between peace and conflict can blur, reshaping our perceptions and our lives in ways that feel all too familiar. Peering into the cabinet, the tube mimics the innocuous, but its presence is a warning, a harbinger of a complex and often chilling legacy. Fast forward to today, and we see remote strikes, sophisticated malware, and even microdoses blending seamlessly into the same toolkit once reserved for disguises and dead drops. Herein lies the blurring line between war and peace. When the battleground becomes as intimate and familiar as our daily routines, everything changes. This narrative isn't designed to glamorize the darkness of murder or violence. Instead, it seeks to uncover the cold, calculating logic that governs states and movements locked in a perpetual asymmetry. Intelligence thrives on invisibility, and that very invisibility thrives on the ordinary, much like the routine of your morning coffee or your work commute. When you begin to understand this dynamic, headlines take on a new meaning. Simple answers become suspect, and you start to question the legitimacy of the narratives fed to you. You notice the quiet, yet deliberate decisions made by officials who need outcomes, but without the accompanying noise. This deeper awareness transforms you. It grants you power, the power to think critically about what is done in your name, and to recognize the stories designed to divert your gaze from uncomfortable truths. Allow this perspective to sharpen your view, urging you to explore beyond the surface and into the heart of the unseen conflicts that shape our world today. As we unravel this narrative, consider what it means to look closely at the seemingly ordinary. If this investigation ignited your curiosity about how strategy lurks in everyday objects, I urge you to dive deeper. Dig into the history, compare different accounts, and unveil the underlying motivations that shape these stories. Each narrative we explore is more than mere trivia. It's a glimpse into how power operates when the lights dim and the cameras stop rolling. When you dissect an incident like this, you're not just learning about espionage, you're gaining insight into the very fabric of our world. Your comments could spark the next exploration, so share with us the operation you want to see next. And if you value sharp storytelling that respects your intellect, hit that subscribe button for more. The title looms over us: How Mossad Hunted PFLP Leader Using Poisoned Toothpaste. The chilling lesson? In the shadows, silence often triumphs over chaos. A seemingly mundane ritual can determine a life. The most effective actions are those that happen without fanfare. In this world of subtlety, it's the unnoticed maneuvers that can shift the balance of power. Embrace this notion and let it propel your curiosity forward.